and good afternoon to all our participants. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Renelle Snellix, who was a former TV news anchor who quit her media career in 2011 to follow her passion for dance. She uses movement as a tool to restore wholeness and health to the body, mind, and spirit. Emotional and mental wellness is at the core of her work as a dance therapist. So all the psychologists, budding psychologists and artists out there, I think this is a session especially for you. So ma'am, handing it over to you.
All right, thank you so much for having me this afternoon, and I hope that in this short span of time, I'm able to share a little bit about dance movement therapy, and I hope that's going to be helpful to you. I also want to keep a little bit of, I don't want to talk too much, but really also keep some time for your questions and to address some of the thoughts on your mind as well. If for this time, I think I'm going to need everyone to be on mute. So if anyone's not on mute, kindly mute your audio, please. And if you have a question, then you can unmute at that point.
I think we can put the questions on the chat box and we can ask you all the questions at the end. Will that work?
Sure. Yeah, that will work too.
All right.
That will work too. Yes. Okay. So as we proceed, I'm going to share screen of our presentation, but I want it to be like interactive as well. So I don't want you to just be staring at a screen. Usually when I talk about dance therapy, it always entails doing some movement. But I can't see any of you because all of you have put your videos off. So I won't be able to really tell if you're doing any movement or not. But I'll just go ahead nonetheless with sharing a little bit about the process. Okay? So like you heard, my journey with dance movement therapy started in 2011. I've always been a dancer. I've always loved dancing. I trained as a dancer at some point in my life for a couple of years before I got into media professionally. But there came a time when I felt a calling on my life to go back to dance and to quit my media job. And so I quit my job and decided to take a 3-month sabbatical. And that's when, truly when I quit my job, I didn't know that something like dance movement therapy exists. I just knew that I was passionate about dance and I wanted to help people. So I quit my job, and during my 3 months, I learned about dance movement therapy from a friend, and I decided to attend an intensive workshop. And that's when it just completely blew me away, the power of movement in being able to tap into an inner narrative. And I advocate for dance therapy not only because I am a therapist myself now, but primarily because it has helped me personally in my own journey and has brought about a lot of deep and irreversible healing and restoration for myself. So that's one of the most important reasons why I can totally vouch for it and also explain to you how it works. So I'm just going to share screen with the PPT. So I don't know how many of you actually know about dance therapy, may have heard of it or have learned about some aspect of it during the course of your studies in psychology. But if I had to relate it to your current understanding of the mind and the body, dance therapy really tries to bridge the link between your body and your mind. Yeah, so what we experience is, so body and mind cannot be isolated. There cannot be a barrier that separates my mind from my body. What I think impacts how I feel. How I feel will also impact how I think. So what is dance therapy? Now I can go and give you one technical definition of dance therapy, but I won't do that. Basically, it is a therapeutic process that is creative. Okay, it's a creative process that engages another person first on a physical level. So you begin to start moving. Yeah, you don't need to be a dancer to do this. 90% of the people that I work with are not trained dancers. They may have never danced in their life. Some of them even tell me, I have 2 left feet, I don't know how to dance. Yeah, but it's about moving and expressing yourself physically. Now, when you move, okay, you will feel something. Let's say, for example, if I begin to do this movement, like a punching movement, I'm feeling something, right, while I'm doing it. If I asked you to do a punching movement, if I just said, punch your fist, what are you feeling? Some of you may share a certain emotion or an emotional content that is attached to the movement. Or I may say, just move your hands like the breeze. When you do that, you might say, wow, I'm just feeling so light. I feel like I'm on the beach. I just feel like as if, my stress is moving out of my system, So there are many ways in which we will connect the physical movement with an emotion and an internal feeling. This will also, so it will affect us physically, emotionally, mentally. We'll begin to cognitively process, when I did this movement, I felt like this. This is the feeling that came up for me when I began to move. Yeah, so it'll impact me even cognitively. I'll begin to start processing. Socially, it will also impact as well as spiritually. Yeah, so it promotes overall emotional health and impacts a person's wellness and healing. Now, why dance therapy? Whoever's the host, can you just mute someone who, there's a lot of breeze coming from someone's mic.
Yeah, I am the host and everybody is muted. So I'm also trying to figure out where is the breeze coming from.
Yeah. Now it's gone. Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Now it's gone. Yeah. Okay. So like I said, what dance therapy does, it tries to bridge the link between the body and the mind. Now the whole premise is based on the fact that everything that an individual experiences in their lifetime, from the time that they are conceived in the mother's womb till this very date, everything has been recorded in the body as memory. Some of this memory we may remember, some of it we may not remember at all and might be deep in the subconscious, but nevertheless, it has been recorded in the body memory, and it's what we call muscle memory. Yeah, so all life experiences, they could be positive experiences, they could be negative experiences, they could be traumatic experiences. All of these experiences are all captured in the body as memory. Now, what happens when we move? Like I said, if I asked you to do a punching movement, you may say, when I did this movement, it brought back a memory of a particular incident. Yeah, or it brings back a memory sometimes when I feel upset and I really want to just take out my frustration and I just want to like punch something. I want to take a pillow and just like punch it and then I feel good. Yeah, so when you do the movement, you will find that it inherently connects to a memory. Why? Because all of these memories are stored and packed into the body. There's a whole history, it's a reservoir of information. Now, what happens is that when we experience negative life experiences, okay, those tend to get trapped in the body and a person may feel quite stuck, So usually our coping mechanism is that, okay, something happened that really shook me. I didn't really want to deal with it. So I just kind of kept it somewhere on the side. And I said, maybe at some later point I'll deal with it. I don't want to like go there right now. But as long as it's there, it remains in my system. So what tends to happen is that it might affect the way I do life. Yeah. While it is there, and basically what this forms at the basis of it is it forms an emotional wound. Yeah. And while it is there, it will continue to manifest itself in my life, in all kinds of perhaps unpleasant ways. Yeah. And sometimes these are wounds that we just don't want to talk about. Like we don't want to go there. It's a narrative I do not want to discuss. So therefore, I'm not going into that particular experience and seeking to address it. Instead, I'm just keeping it somewhere in some small box in some internal corner in my body, and I'm not going to that place. But what happens is that as long as it's there and it's left unaddressed, it will continue to manifest itself in my life, and I'll tell you shortly how it does that. Yeah. Now, the expressive arts and particularly dance movement therapy is able to tap into that deep emotional place of wounding. Okay, because it doesn't require words. It requires movement. Yeah. So when I begin to move, things start coming to the surface that were possibly kept submerged for a while. So emotional wounds and trauma begin to manifest itself in all kinds of different ways. And I'll give you an example by just drawing a parallel to physical wounds. Okay. So for this, I want you to be interactive. So tell me now, if you were riding a cycle rather, and you fell down, what would happen? You fell down, you busted your knee. What's the first thing you would do? Maybe one or two of you could answer.
Try to get up.
Yeah, you'll try to get up. Once you investigate how badly you've been hurt, what's the next thing you will do?
Try to bandage up the wound. Try to figure out what to do with the wound.
Yes, so you try to figure out what to do with the wound. You may wash it, you may apply some Dettol, you may try to do some kind of self-treatment, right? After a point of time, it may still hurt, and while it's there, it's going to affect how you walk. You probably will walk with a limp. If you're wearing a salwar kameez, it's going to graze against, your trouser. It's going to hurt you. It might make you irritable when you're working on your, maybe an assignment, and this thing is there. It's sending signals to your whole body that there's something in my system that is paining. There's something in my system that is throbbing. Yeah. So it's sending signals to my whole body and even affecting the way I do life. So maybe if, a friend comes to give me a hug and I'm like, no, one sec, just stay away from me because you can't come next to me. What if you hurt the current wound that I have on my knee? Okay. So it's going to affect your life in general. Yeah. Eventually, after about, let's say, a week, maybe 10 days, you might, pop some pills and try to get better. But if it doesn't get better, you're finally going to say, you know what, I think I have to go and show it to a specialist because it's just not getting better. So after trying to self-medicate it for a while, you'll finally go and show it to a doctor. And the first thing that you will have to do is you will have to roll up your trouser and expose that wound. When that wound is exposed, the doctor will probably ask you, when did this happen? How did this happen? How did you fall? What have you been applying on it? And then he will probably take a swab of cotton, dunk it in some antiseptic and clean out all the infection. Yeah. I like to give this example because it parallels very much to the kind of process that dance movement therapy is. Dance movement therapy is a process where you're able to draw your awareness to certain things in your body and in your system that are still paining, that are still throbbing. And I begin to draw my awareness to it, and therefore I can expose it. Yeah, when I expose it, I can get the required help that I need. Yeah. And so basically, it's that whole process of rolling up the trouser and exposing the wound and allowing that swab of cotton to really go into and clean out the infection. Now, these emotional wounds, I'm just skipping ahead 1 or 2 slides. These emotional wounds are very much like an iceberg, they are very deeply embedded underneath. And only on the surface is what we see. So sometimes on the surface, we will see anger, violence, depression, low self-esteem, addictions, self-destructive behavior, even suicidal thoughts, relational issues. All these are, on an iceberg, you only see the 1/3 on the top, right? Everything else is submerged underneath. You don't know actually the depth of the iceberg from what you see on the surface, yeah? So very often these emotional wounds are like that. What you see on the surface is the anger or the depression or the self-destructive behavior, but underneath that, there is something that has occurred in an individual's life that is manifesting itself in this way. So it could be something as simple as neglect as a child, neglect during developmental years, abandonment, feeling a sense of rejection growing up, even negative words spoken over one's life. You know, very often, even a very smart child, if that child is constantly told you're stupid and you'll never be able to do anything, that child will literally embrace those words. And that child will embody those words so much so that that child may never be able to reach its full potential because it has fully embraced the power of those negative words spoken over their life. Yeah. Other examples are any kind of abuse. So it could be emotional, verbal abuse, physical abuse, of course, sexual abuse, domestic violence, even the loss of a parent or a loved one in the course of one's life can gravely affect the person. And therefore, you see only the tip of the iceberg, whereas all of this other stuff may be buried underneath. Now, what dance movement therapy really tries to do, it tries to go deep into the root issue. So we're not only dealing with the surface and top level stuff, because you can do anger management and it will temporarily be a good solution. But if you don't really address the deep rooted issue, there's a possibility it will resurface again in some form or the other, or that person will be triggered in other situations and that will manifest itself. So therefore, dance movement therapy, because it's not verbal, it's safe, it's non-threatening, and it helps people to move past pain. It affects the whole body. So it affects the mind, the body, and the spirit. And when it's done in groups, so I work with both group settings as well as personal one-on-one client settings. And in both settings, of course, it's extremely powerful. When it's in a group, it forms a good, support system and a community of survivors. I'm just going to run through this bit and don't take too much of time, so I have enough time for your questions. The kind of groups that I primarily work with, so when I started working in dance therapy, it's very important to work with a group that you personally feel a burden to work with, you know. And I felt that for girls who've experienced sexual violence and sexual abuse, and so I largely work with girls rescued from sex trafficking from a very young age. Self-times they're as young as 9 years old. There's deep levels of trauma stuck in the body. Often the body is perceived as dirty. There's a lot of self-harm, depression, suicide attempts. But what happens is that this becomes a safe tool to, it becomes a place of trust. And therefore, they begin to start trusting you, and you begin to start working from the body level first, but then you're able to address the emotional and the mental health conditions as well. I mainly represent an organization called Kolkata Samved, although I'm an independent therapist myself. These guys have been pioneers in the field and have been doing this work for more than a decade. In fact, they have pioneered a very specific form of dance movement therapy in India called Sampurnata. You see, dance therapy started in the 1960s almost in the US, but it came here much later. What these guys have done is try to make it relevant to the Indian context and not just use a foreign approach. I also work with children survivors of cancer. Of course, here it's a physical illness. Many of these kids have had their treatment and have gone back, so to speak, to life. They go to school and all of that, but the fears are, the mental health issues are a big concern, because it's important for them to build their confidence again, to reintegrate themselves into life. So I'm just showing you these to give you an essence of what are the different opportunities where this can be used. Currently, in a place like India, the opportunities are vast. Another group that I often work with are corporate offices and corporate teams. And by using dance therapy, we use creative ways to release stress, to build up teams, to help meet corporate goals, to strengthen their relationships, build empathy, kind of change the environment of the office. And as you can see from some of these visuals, there's no age restriction. You have all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds, more than happy to jump in and participate. So literally DMT is for everyone. As you can see here, there's a plus 70-year-old uncle and maybe about a 30-year-old young girl, both enjoying dance therapy. A lot of my private clients, sometimes I work with young children, sometimes I work with adults, with couples, with housewives, and also in, impoverished communities. So yes, that's pretty much my background in a nutshell. And I think it's now 12:23. We should have some time for questions.
Thank you very much, Ronelle. That was lovely. And I must say, I've been one of those fortunate ones who was able to participate in Ronelle's workshop. And we had done this for our MA second years. And it was such a moving experience. Everyone was so much more lighter after this. And the energy that she brings, it's so positive, so vibrant, and so healing. Thank you so much for this time that you've shared with us today. And I'm going to jump to questions. People, if you have any questions, I would recommend please put them on the chat box rather than all attacking her together. And while they type the questions, one question for you. How are you, or what's Dance Movement DMT going to do now in this COVID scenario, especially when it comes to group workshops?
Yeah. So it's a very sensitive time all over, and I think all of us dance therapists have really had to rethink our practice, also being sensitive to the current environment. We've had to also start thinking very creatively about how to continue reaching out to people in this time. As we all know that mental health has taken a major beating in this time. More than COVID being an issue, I think mental health has been a major issue for a lot of people as they've been locked up, and especially those who are on medication and for whom it's important to have a routine and be out and about. It's really taken a toll on them. What we've had to do is for sessions. There is a need to maybe switch to an extent to platforms like Zoom, but we can't take everything to Zoom because there has to be a certain process of standardization. Also, dance therapy is one such process which is very experiential. So to an extent, we can do a session like this on Zoom, but I would, as a practitioner, not go deep into any process work while I'm doing this from a remote place. Because as a practitioner, ethically, I would feel that it's very important for me to be fully present. Because as a practitioner, what tends to happen is you begin to take cues from your group when you're present there, even though verbally they've not expressed certain things, but you tend to be very sensitive to what's happening in the room. So I have taken my sessions online, but these sessions are more like stress release, fun, not very heavy duty. I'm not going into too much of deep work in a group. However, when I work with private clients on Zoom, I can to an extent still go into deep process work because I know that client. I've worked for a period of time with them, and there is a sense of trust there, even though we are remotely at different places. So that is my advice in this time. I mean, we all have to think on our toes and move ahead in this season.
So for those who would want to pursue DMT in Mumbai, what would you recommend? Where could they do stuff from?
Yeah, so I have the joy of being a faculty member at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. We started this course 6 years ago. In fact, one of your graduates with whom I had done a day's workshop, I had visited your college. She was very much interested. She pursued the course, and she is also now a dance therapy practitioner, Zankana Joshi. And that's very encouraging because, you see the fruit of some of the seeds that are sown in these times together. So Tata Institute offers a diploma course in dance movement therapy. It's about a year in duration. This year, we've had to push it a little in terms of the timeline. Usually we start by June, July, but this time we may start by September given the current situation. It's a 1-year course, and basically it'll the last 2 to 3 months will be field work and internship, and the rest of it. So this course is primarily experiential. We try to integrate the learning in such a way that it's embedded in the body and not just theory. So we try to bring the theory alive through the movement sessions and activities and all of that. This is something that you could explore if you are in Mumbai. And if you're not in Mumbai, there are currently a few other courses that are available in Pune, Bangalore. So you could explore some of those as well.
Right. Shruti would like to know that in case a person with a clinical disorder, how effective is DMT in comparison to normal conventional therapy? Or is it more effective if it is done in combination with psychotherapy?
Yeah, it depends on how extreme the case is. In certain cases, but the practitioner has to be very skilled in that area to be able to address that need. If so, we take a wide range of students in the course. Some of them may have some psychology background, some of them may not, some of them may be dancers, some of them may have training in working with children with special needs. When working with a client where there is a severe condition, it has to be very mindfully done. In certain cases, it requires a very, very skilled practitioner to be able to do that. Yeah. Also, there are a lot of, I mean, when you're working with clients, there are a lot of mental health issues. Yeah, and sometimes we do have to work parallelly with other process work in order to make headway.
Right. Ananta would like to know if DMT can be used across all ages, especially for the elderly, physically and intellectually disabled.
Yes, it can be used, but again, I would say each practitioner must have a specific specialization in that area as well. If a practitioner does not have training in, say, working with children with special needs, then I will not recommend that practitioner work in a setup using dance movement therapy in that particular population. Each one, as they are trained, will foray out into different areas of specialization. Like for me personally, I mainly work with trauma. That is my specialization. Yeah. So I will not work with children with disabilities. Yeah. So even for all of us as practitioners, it's important to have that specific skill set before you address a certain population. But to answer your question, yes, you can work with children of different age groups. You can work with teenagers, adolescents. You can work with the elderly. It's really quite a pleasure working with the elderly, you know, because sometimes you think their movement is so restricted. Maybe some of them are in wheelchairs. Maybe, you know, some of them are not very coherent. But when the music comes on, you will just be amazed at just the transformation that occurs in the body. I don't specialize in work with the elderly, but I have done sessions with them, and I've even witnessed where a client is completely incoherent and like in a wheelchair, suffered a stroke a couple of years ago, just almost like immobile and lifeless. When the music came on and just given some help with like shakers, a person who is in this position is able to come to this position and actually begin to shake in rhythm and completely connect with what's happening in the process. So it's mind-blowing. I mean, you have to really witness it to see the impact that it can have.
Right, thank you. Veronica would like to know if women are better DM therapists than men.
I would say, I mean, I wouldn't vouch for that at all. Although unfortunately most women end up taking the dance therapy course. Like every year we'll have about, maybe there's been one lucky guy who will be like there in the class, or maybe two guys. Unfortunately in our country we feel like dancing is a very girly thing, it's not a guy thing, so many guys may not opt for it. But it has been encouraging because over the last few years we've seen a growing interest from gents to be able to be trained in dance therapy and take it out there. It's great actually to have males as well equipped in this skill set, because there are certain groups with whom maybe a woman will not be able to go. Let's say, for example, if there is an opening to go into a male prison, a woman would not be allowed to go in there perhaps and conduct a full-blown session with maybe 20 to 30 prisoners, right? And in that kind of setup, I mean, it would be wonderful if you had a gent who was skilled in this area and could actually go and meet that need.
Manali would like to know, how do people generally respond to DMT?
Oh, I've seen all kinds of different responses. I've had from people telling me like, this is not my thing, I'm not going to dance and all that. And the whole thing is that never to coerce someone to come and join you. It's like, it's an open invitation. And I've always told people, like, at least come into this space and try to experience what we're doing together. If suppose you're not able to connect with it, that's fine. So they have the freedom to sit it out, but at least come and experience. 90% of the time, like, I actually don't recall a single time when somebody who's been so diffident about coming, actually walking out and saying, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, sometimes when I go to corporate offices, in a corporate office, I do sessions with banks. And in the bank, like, everybody's like all like suited and booted and very like, serious and whatever. And you will be shocked by the response. They first they'll be like, okay, what has she come here to do? Like, very skeptical about what I'm doing, because sometimes it may appear a bit silly. I may make them do some movements that, they're not used to seeing each other doing, especially in a corporate setting. And by the end of it, they've all broken loose and they are having a great time, and very often we get told, these things should be done more often for us. We get so stuck in the mundane stuff. We're seated at our desk for like 12 hours a day. Even if we just did like 1 hour of this, like even once a month, it would be such a great release. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Vaishnavi would like to know of some recognized organizations for DMT in Pune.
Yeah, so you have, there is Artsphere, which is run by a couple of friends. They have, it's a studio, they have a course which is aligned to St. Mira's College, and they offer both sessions for the public through workshops, both intensive long-term workshops as well as short-term workshops. For someone who just wants to explore what is this dance therapy about, and I want to just get a feel of it. And of course, they also have a full-fledged course, which is part of the CIMTI, which is the Creative Movements and Arts Therapies association. And then there's also the Sancheti Hospital, which offers a dance therapy course as well. And now, of course, I'm personally aware of a number of individual practitioners who offer workshops from time to time, both in Pune and in Mumbai. So yeah, those are the opportunities that can be explored.
Okay, I'm going to combine the next two questions from Naseem and Purvi. Is there any clinical research to support the effectiveness of DMT? And also, is there like a time period it takes for someone who's ill to get better?
Yes. So there is plenty now there is plenty of clinical research to support the positive impact of DMT. There is a lot available. If you go on to the American Dance Therapy Association, ADTA, you will find that there are extensive amounts of research to support the impact of dance therapy with clients who've had PTSD, war veterans, senior citizens, children with autism. It's mind-blowing. I mean, when I first started, Now, what, 10 years ago, there wasn't that much. Research was very limited. We also now like to encourage a lot of our team members and senior people who have been doing this for at least about 10 years to actually publish research and put it out there so that it's available for people to see and acknowledge, and that there is evidence. Even I personally, the work that I do with survivors of sex trafficking, for every project that we do, it is always supported with a research team. And every single project that we do, we measure the impact of how it has panned out for the clients that we work with. It's very important to have that backup. And the other question was, what was the other one?
Yeah, so how much time does it take generally to get better?
See, I particularly don't like to give a timeline. I don't find that's very helpful because it's a very personal experience and each person is different. There'll be some who will be more resilient and whose coping strategies will be much stronger, whereas for others, it may take more time. So it's an intensive trauma case. Like, for example, the girls with who experience sex trafficking, we usually work for roughly around 6 months with them, once a week. Whereas, I've also had personal clients who've come in for one single session, and perhaps that's all they needed in that moment to help them process a challenging situation in their lives. With others, I've worked with them over maybe 6 months to a year. I always leave it open to my client to kind of, feel whenever they need for it to then fill that need at that point of time, rather than say, okay, because a lot of people ask me, in how many sessions will I get okay? And I don't really have an answer to that because I don't know, everybody's different, Some people it may take 3 sessions, for others it may take 12, and that's perfectly okay. There's no, pressure that, oh, okay, if I'm not getting better in 3 sessions, there's something wrong with me or whatever. So it's different for each person.
Okay. Why does DMT have an age criteria? Is there an age criteria for doing the course, DMT?
There will be, because you'll have to be, if I'm not mistaken, a graduate at least. So you have to graduate and you have to be a certain age.
So there's a lower age limit, not an upper age limit.
No.
All right, wonderful.
In the DMT course that we do, it's like we have some of the students who are 60 plus and who are doing extensive work with senior citizens and stuff. So there's no age limit.
Yes,
there's
and as far as
educational requirement.
Absolutely. In fact, as far as the research work goes, one of our own master's students, Christabel Mascarenas, has used DMT for her master's dissertation, working with the young girls from the remand home. Then she found excellent results, significant results. Vrishti would like to know, how do you deal with the burnout you experience?
Yeah. So, one of the primary things when I was first trained as a dance therapist was a particular skill to be present fully, but listen without burden. Now, what happens, because it's such an experiential process, many times, the person may be mirroring my movement, I may be mirroring the person's movement. There is a lot of emotional projection that will come onto me. Yeah? However, when I'm done with the session, it's important for me to release that before I exit the space. And it's a practice that you need to develop as a lifestyle. So even though you're fully present and you're completely empathizing, like sometimes when I work with the girls who've experienced trauma, their stories are so intense, that you can, the pain is palpable. You can feel it in your own body, But as much as I'm fully present with them in that moment, and I can literally feel their pain, when I'm done with my session, as a practitioner, to maintain a healthy lifestyle, or else I will be burnt out, I have to have my own process of release and to be listening without burden. So I listen, but that burden is not mine to carry. So when I go back on my way, I'm not feeling all heavy and all depressed because that person's story was so intense. I'm not feeling that because I listen without burden. The other thing is that I have to have a very, very, very strategic self-care practice that I adopt. And each one's different. It's things that you like doing, things that give you a release. And those are things that I always will tap into. Sometimes, coming back from a session, all I need to do is just take a nice shower and just sleep for an hour. because my session has been so intense, and I wake up and I feel fully energized. So for different people it's different. Like sometimes I just feel like after an intense session, I just feel like having some ice cream, like that's just what I need right now. And I know these are small things. I mean, these are small practices. Apart from that, I do a whole lot of other things. I dance, where I am not leading something, when I'm just a student. I journal, I sing, I do all kinds of things. So, but yes, even sometimes a small thing like having an ice cream after a session can just like help you feel so much better.
All right. And also something else which a lot of people don't know, she also designs bridal gowns. Something
Yes.
new and some very beautiful ones.
This is a recent creative project that took off last year, yes.
Wonderful. And Manali, I think we'll take this as the last question because our next resource person is also here. The last question, do you think irrespective of whether a person has any clinical disorder or trauma, DMT can be helpful? I think this question also comes from the fact that people who practice or who are DMT artists or therapists, they are not all from psychology background. Correct. So, but it can still help in case of severe trauma.
Yes, they may not necessarily be, but it is recommended that there should be a psychology background understanding, because it is far more helpful in understanding the process. It's far more helpful in understanding how the mind works, the body works, how it all syncs together. So that is helpful. Although sometimes, yes, I have to admit that there are practitioners who are not. But then you see, those practitioners cannot work with people who have mental health conditions. Because simply they'll not understand it at all.
Correct.
So maybe they'll work with in a different setting. Maybe they'll work with children where it's more about play, and or maybe it's educational. Maybe their understanding would be more from an academic or educational context. So then they apply it in that context. Yeah. Yes, you can work with any person. They may not have a clinical disorder or any severe trauma. However, everybody at some point of time in their lives have gone through different events that may have affected them. And that's where, so it may not be a big issue. For example, when I said emotional wound, you think, oh no, somebody fell on the cycle, got a really bad hurt. But have you ever got a splinter in your finger? Like a thorn from a rose in your finger. It might be like so tiny, like just small part of a centimeter, but as long as it's there in your finger, it is going to pain like crazy, and you are not going to be at peace until you get it out of your system. So your what you're carrying in your body may not have to be some massive trauma that you've gone through, anything. It may just be even a small thing that has just affected you. But DMT can be helpful for anyone and everyone.
On that wonderfully positive note, I think we shall take your leave. Thank you so much, Ronelle, for giving us so much of your time today. And I'm sure after this session, a lot of people are going to be running to find out DMT courses in their area. And I do hope a lot of people take this up, because the future is about those who can make a difference in, and not the traditionally medical well-being ways, but the unconventional ways. And this is, I have experienced it, so I know how powerful it is. I have seen people come out of such intense emotional situations with movement. So thank you, Ronelle. Thank you so much. And Ronelle's also on Facebook, and she posts these pretty videos of her doing some dance. I think you must follow her. You learn a lot.
Yes.
And then, do they have your permission to contact you if they have any doubts or if they would like to talk to you?
Yes. You can reach out to me. Be happy to help. I hope this session was an eye-opener and helpful to you too. It's been a joy to spend the afternoon with you.